Hello, welcome to Martini Shot, a podcast production of nanticoSTUDIOS. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jordyn.
Well, we've made it to our second episode.
We sure did. Proud of us.
Yeah.
A long time coming.
Without some technical difficulties, and it has been a couple weeks, so we may be a little bit rusty. I had a cold, not COVID, by the way, and I had a trip as well, so that kind of interfered with some of our recording plans, but we are back stronger than ever.
We're back. Well, I can't put it on you, Sarah, because also my computer blew up last week. Everything's a bit of a drama, but
yeah,
we vibe and thrive.
Yeah. What's a week without a little bit of a computer explosion, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep it spicy. Your life's just too boring, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so this is the second episode of Martini Shot, and this is just a podcast kind of like a behind the scenes at Nantico. We talk a little bit about what we're working on, but also just kind of talking about film and creative entrepreneurship and really anything that kind of settles into that pocket of what I'm going to call the professional content creator? Question mark? How's that sound, Sarah?
Yeah, that works. That's perfect. All right, so this episode in particular is going to be about the favorites as far as movies and our inspirations, motivations, things like that. I don't know where to start, Jordyn. I guess let's start at the beginning and kind of talk about some of the early movies that kind of inspired us to create film, or at least enjoy film at least. So
absolutely,
yeah, absolutely. For me, I guess would be, it's a particular phase I think we all went through. For me, I was in middle school when the big book to movie pipeline took place. And of course, middle school is quite, your formative years. And things like Harry Potter was ending around the time I was in middle school. But Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, Fault in Our Stars, those kind of became the very popular movies that teenagers were watching during that time. Everyone, went through a phase where they actually started to read, even the kids in your class, the guys who would have never read a book in their life, they started to read. And everyone collectively was excited to, go see this movie that kind of had been in your brain, had you thinking, up until these movies came out. So that's kind of what started filmmaking for me, because around that same time I started wanting to create my own videos, and that was definitely inspired by things like Hunger Games. And because of course you read the book, it's you're trying to imagine it in your head, trying to place things, and then for it to fully come to life on screen was probably one of the coolest things that could ever happen to someone in middle school. So that's definitely it has are they quality movies? No. Are they Oscar winning films? Absolutely not. But to me, they have a special place in my heart just because they're kind of the first couple of films that got me interested in filmmaking, at least because it was the art of storytelling. From that book to movie pipeline. Yeah,
so they did their job. They got you invested and involved. So who cares if they won an Academy Awards or not?
Yeah.
They did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So
are we gonna talk about the Divergent series being one of the worst films series ever? No, but I still enjoyed it as a 13-year-old person.
Absolutely. So they knew their target audience.
Yeah. In hindsight, you can critique it.
See, it's funny because I remember the last Harry Potter film, the seventh one, part 2, came out my senior year of high school. And that was I remember a friend and me going to, that was the big event. We were stoked and buzzing to get out there. And to be honest, I mean, and maybe this is a hot take, but I am not really invested in the whole Marvel universe. Oh. So for me, Harry Potter was kind of the last gotta go to the movie theater opening night kind of situation. When we're talking about a big right. Series.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. There's something special about, and I'm gonna have to disagree with you because I'm quite a big fan of all of the Marvel films. There's some tension here through the Zoom. But
it's good and spicy.
But I think there's something special, whether you're referring to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whether you're talking about Harry Potter or Star Wars, for instance. There's something special that about like a chain of movies that takes you on a journey. The anticipation of having to wait a full year for the next one. There's something special about that. It's a collective hype. You find people that are interested in the same, fandom as you are, whatever movie series that is, and everyone's collectively excited all together. There's kind of like this really amazing energy about films like that. And so even though you don't like Marvel, I guess I'll have to forgive you because Harry Potter is just as amazing. I think there's something special about it.
See, I should put like a disclaimer. I feel like my problem with Marvel was I became aware of it too late. Like it was like too big of an investment. But like I felt like I missed the trend. I don't have it like I wouldn't say like I have. The thing is I can't have an opinion of it because I think I've seen like 2 of the movies.
Oh no.
And I know this is going to cause a lot of contention. This is our second or last episode.
This is it. We quit after this. The band's broken up. Oh my god. I don't want to get on the Marvel tangent because this isn't, that's not the only film series I'm passionate about, but I don't know. Marvel in particular, I highly recommend you just try a couple out. They're all not amazing 10 out of 10 quality. There's flaws within each one, but I do have to commend Marvel for being able to hold a sound series for like 20 plus movies. They all collectively tie into each other really well, and there's something about them that like it's hard if you just like watch a movie, you're like trying to like piece things together, like what's happening in this. But if you watch like from beginning to end, or at least what the most current film has been, they're really good at collectively like stringing a narrative together. And even in their new like Disney Plus TV shows, amazing. Like honestly, like pretty good quality. So I recommend it.
Yeah, that's like a great point though. That's a great point. Like when we're talking about like, it sounds like an obvious thing, but like cultivating like a universe. Like from what I understand from my very little like firsthand knowledge, an incredidible like that I can't even imagine. Like imagine like the series Bible that is the Marvel universe. Like how thick that is. Like I can't even wrap my head around that. But I think that's interesting because I feel like for me, when it comes to like the movies that I think about that really struck a chord with me from a young age, I'm going to say loosely tie into this book to film pipeline. I think the easiest bridge is Lord of the Rings was like the first like trilogy, or I'll say series, like fantasy series that just gripped me wholly because, and I was also the benefit of being 8 years older than you, Sarah, is that this was like I think 2001 was Fellowship, and then 2002, and then Return of the King was 2003 or something like that. And so I was like 8 to 10 years old. So this was like prime time, and I wasn't someone who like read the books first. I got into the movie from like at a friend's house when I was 8, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So that was like the first for me when it comes to like, those big like universal type situations. And then from that, like it was that and like any type of like war epic. Like I remember being like 7 years old, obsessed with The Patriot, like all of those like big, and then as I got older, like War and Commander, and then obviously a lot later War Horse. Like those were the movies when I was thinking of like original like OG Jordyn into film. Those were like the ones that were like, oh yeah, this is incredible. So but I feel like there's a lot of correlation between that and like you say, like that book to film pipeline. Yeah.
Now, can I ask, because you particularly pointed on like war movies. Now, is that because of your own interest, or was like that kind of like inspired by things that your parents watched?
I definitely, well, that's actually a good question, because this is going to be a chicken or the egg kind of situation. It was definitely probably my father. I have a really vivid memory of, this is okay, I need to, Sarah, you're probably like 3 months old at this point, but put yourself as you can in the context of like 2004-ish. So I was like 10, and surround sound systems were like all the rage. And my dad he just built a house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you remember like the surround sound, and he just built a surround sound system.
Yeah,
in.
yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I think this will translate.
Yeah. Yeah. We still have it actually. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's something about I don't want to like step on your point, but like, it's something about like war movies in particular are a very surreal experience when you watch them. A more recent war film that I like was Hacksaw Ridge. It's very recent actually. So not as relatable as kind of like some of the older war films, but it's just surround yourself in the moment of like all of this destruction and death happening around you. Like to have that in your living room was like something pretty incredible. So yeah, I totally understand. Those sound systems come in clutch.
Yeah. Because I think it was the fact that it was able, like there was like entertainment that was able to fully immerse you like outside of your life, like your current, life, and you were completely thrust into this whole other situation. I think that was what was really captivating, and to be only made better by like technology like that. So like that was it, the 5-point surround sound system or whatever it was. And so so I think that it was probably I know it has to be like 100% like a parent, particularly my father. I remember he brought the Patriot home, and it was like and this is like probably right when DVDs were just getting, or maybe we saw on TV first. I don't even remember, but I just remember the Patriot was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah. I don't remember honestly don't remember the first time I saw the Patriot, but Patriot, and not a war film, but Gladiator was something pretty impressive to me as well. It was amazing. It was Russell Crowe, and then Joaquin Phoenix, I think, was like the villain. Yeah, incredible.
I mean, I think so I think when I think of like early favorites or influences, there was that, and then maybe this is another hot take, but I will say maybe on the other side of the spectrum, but maybe not so much. Big budget movie musicals, and we're talking like the 68, let's say, production of Oliver. Like the sets. It comes back to this whole like immersive experience. Gripped me, mind, body, and soul.
Yeah. Honestly, I haven't had too much familiarity with like those particular musicals. Like you said, Oliver. Trying to think. A lot of my musical experience as a child getting to watch was like heavily Disney things, like Mary Poppins, things like that spectrum. So I don't think I've ever seen.
Oh my god. Okay, so here's the plan, Sarah. We dedicate a week of our lives. We disconnect from the universe as a whole. You show me the whole Marvel universe, and I will introduce you to all of the classic like 1960s-ish movie musicals, like How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, all those big boys, and then we will both have a better understanding of each other.
Thank you. I you know what? I'll take you up on that offer. I need to expand. I think that's the one thing that's lacking for me. I need to expand my experience in the musical genre, because it's honestly like Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, and that's it. Like that's all I know. So
both really good though.
Yeah,
so it's not honestly, like you're gonna sit here and be like, oh yes, I watch. Yeah.
While my like expertise on the Broadway musical thing is not grand, I really do know all of the in-depth details to The Sound of Music, because that was actually my grandma's favorite film. And so when I'd be babysat by her, we watched that over and over again. So I've probably seen it about like 20-30 times.
That's a long one.
It is. Yeah. Oh wait, you know what? I take that back. Another musical I've seen, musical film. Do you remember Chitty Chitty Bang Bang? It's a good another grandparent favorite.
I remember Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, of course.
It was another grandparent favorite.
Absolutely.
The whole like babysat.
Also, I think the thing is we didn't have that one. Yeah. Oh. I think it's like, I remember seeing that like at friends' house, and we didn't like own it, so you couldn't like put in the VHS or like the DVD player.
Yeah, we did. We had the VHS tape of it, which some people don't know what VHS tapes are anymore.
It'll come back. It'll be like the vinyls.
It's fine. But that was a good one. The particular like scarring memory from that film was the child snatcher. I don't know if you remember that part.
Oh,
like isn't that weird? I don't even know what they called it, but like that weird like castle-y village thing that they traveled to. There was like that child snatcher with like a really long nose, and he's like, I smell children. It's like pretty scarring for a 5-year-old to see that.
Dude, yeah, you're like so traumatized. You're like, it all came back to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
The formative years.
War epics, like apocalyptic series, and then child snatchers. Hi, we are all well-developed, well-balanced adults.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Now, I'm pretty sure, don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty sure you have quite the taste for A24 films.
Oh,
right.
Let's talk about this, Sarah, because I think this is a shared taste. I think what I'm really intrigued about to hear your perspective on this as well is that I think that there is, I don't know if the word is disconnect, but there is, it's interesting kind of like the movies or the films or whatever that really stick out to me as a kid versus the kind of like stories I find myself wanting to, tell and the kind of films I want to make. And so I think I would love to get like your like perspective on that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I consider to be like, I think where we've coined it like the A24 aesthetic as kind of, I don't know, that sounds like really cringy now. I don't know, but hey, it is what it is. That settles like so strong. So like, do you remember like your first like A24? Like, what was your introduction to A24?
I'm a late bloomer.
That's okay.
I the first one I saw was actually Midsummer, which was quite a recent film. So in the past like 2 years, but then I got hooked on it, and then so like naturally I watched every A24 movie I could. And then one of the college courses I was taking was required that we watch the Florida Project, and I was blown away by that. It was amazing. We can get into that, but yeah, it's for those of you who don't know, the uncultured human beings. I'm just kidding.
So exclusive.
A24 is a production company. I don't know how you'd explain them honestly, Jordyn. They're kind of like, they started out pretty small, but they have like specific. There's a specific aesthetic to it. There's a specific kind of look and feel. They all feel very original, originally written films. I don't know how much more I could, but you could expand on that, Jordyn.
No, I think that's fair. I feel like they founded by 3 guys, all from different backgrounds. Some more production, some more like, I'm going to say hedge fund loosely, and that's about all I understand about the financial world. They decided to start a distribution company to tell, like, to pick up just unique films, like powerful films told from like unique perspectives. And I feel like they really, I read somewhere, I think a big inspiration for them was kind of like the 90s indie film market, where it was kind of like they felt like there wasn't that kind of touch, there wasn't that company or, oh man, now I'm trying to dig for, this is going to show my lack of like knowledge on this kind of, who cares? There's like, there's an, it doesn't matter. Okay, the point is let me come back to the point. The point is that I think they saw like an opportunity or that it was missing. Like there was, from the mainstream, there was a very, very unique, stories and perspectives and films that just were missing. And I think they wanted to fill that void. And I would say that they filled it very well. And it really has made people excited about independent filmmaking that I haven't seen, in a long time. So I don't know. So I think they really curate the films that they select, whether it's for distribution or the ones they produce, to fulfill very specific, I think, artistic goals. And I think they give their artists like a lot of breathing space to really be artists and to be creative and to try things. And I think that's really, really cool and refreshing. There's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned about how they structure themselves, not just as a place to promote art, but also as a business. So yeah, I'm obviously a huge fan. Wow,
you quite literally did an amazing job explaining that. After you said, I don't think I can. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh yeah. So
well, hopefully it's like true and not bullshit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that sense of how you mentioned like giving their directors and writers like creative freedom, because each one is uniquely different, but again there's like that strand of similarity between each of them. There's like that, you know, similar aesthetic to it, like that mid-90s vibe you said. Like, and so each one is like different in its own way with it. There's like horror movies, there's dramas, there's like I don't know, like the term like to refer, I don't even know, like the term to refer to like realistic situations. Like I use the Florida Project, for instance.
Yeah.
It's a film, it's a fictional film, but it follows like real life events, things that are happening on in the world. For those who don't know, it's the story about this young woman and her young child, and they're living in the outskirts of Orlando, the big Disney World, Universal kind of scene of tourism, and they're kind of like living in poverty off of this like those like big well-known areas in like this motel kind of situation. And you kind of it's kind of like a portrayal, an actual portrayal of things that are actually happening down in Florida. Kind of, you know, there's just, I don't know. It's a really raw, powerful film. And like the fun facts like that you find out, the lead character, I forget her name, forgive me, but she's not even an actress. They like pulled her off of like the, I don't know, like some like in a grocery store or something. Like she's not even an actor.
I feel like she's an Instagram find. Like there's something about it that tells me that she like,
oh, Instagram, yeah.
Is that true? Am I crazy? I don't know.
I think so. I think it was like some of the kids they found in a grocery store. Like there was something about where they were just, yeah, because some of the kids weren't even actors to begin with either. I'll have to look it up. I could be like spreading information.
Cool. We don't have fact checkers here.
But it's literally amazing because first off, it's like showing that anyone can act, or at least there's like talent out there that it's not yet been discovered. Mm-hmm. But it just makes the film also more powerful and real. And I was so like honored to like be able to like watch that for a film project, because I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of like opened me up to like the A24 scene and like what they're all about, kind of like sharing those stories. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's been really cool to see what they've been, and it's not just like, oh, here we're gonna give, you know, we're gonna distribute your indie film. It's like, no, these films are doing very well commercially, and I think it's really exciting for independent filmmakers, and also that loosely, like other, you know, writers, directors, posts, whatever, that it's not, you don't have to make it, quote unquote, make it in quote unquote Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of opportunity out there for people. There's a hunger for real stories and fresh perspectives, and I think that should be really encouraging to, you know, anybody who's trying to maybe go the more independent route.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, in pertaining to us as Nantico, like that's kind of, I mean, not something we're like building our company after, but like it's obviously a reachable vision for us to kind of like get to that point, hopefully Absolutely. One day. But they're like setting the example for, like you said, a lot of like independent filmmakers and companies like us.
Yeah, I don't think Nantico would even be like a thing if there wasn't for companies like A24 out there that it's like, hey, look, it's not easy, but it can be done. And so I think that's like, so their impact can't be understated. For, you know, once again, from like an artistic perspective as well as from like a business branding perspective as well.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite A24 film?
Oh, I knew it was coming. I've been thinking about this all day. Here's the thing, and this is gonna at the risk of coming across as like kind of ostentatious. There's a couple that I like for different reasons. I love Lady Bird. I love Greta Gerwig. I love Lady Bird because I think that the mother-daughter relationship in Lady Bird is just like, I don't know, it's everything. You know, it speaks a lot. I love like the visuals of like mid-90s. I think that like commitment to that, like it, like the tone, the visual tone, it was so in accordance with the tone of the film, and I think that's like everything to me. Mm-hmm. 8th grade, I think I can confidently say I've never seen a film portray what it's like to be a really awkward 13-year-old, like 8th grade, and Bo Burnham, like can't give him enough credits for that. Like that's incredible. And the Florida Project as well, because I think that was just from a complete storytelling perspective. So anyway, I so to answer your question,
all of them.
No, I don't have a favorite. I do like I saw I was able to see The Last Black Man in San Francisco at Sundance a couple years ago when I was working the festival. And that was a really cool, it was cool because obviously at the time you didn't know it was going to get picked up by A24, but to like look back and be like, oh cool, I was one of the people that like a part of the audience before, I don't know, as much as maybe that sounds a little stupid, but it was a cool experience. Yeah, I just like what they're doing. I haven't seen I've been looking forward to seeing like Zola, but I want to see it like in the movies. I want to go out to the theater, but I haven't like.
Ditto, yeah. The Green Knight for me is like the next on my watch list. It's in theaters now, and I need to see it. I want to see it.
No way! I didn't realize that. Sick.
Yeah. Got to make a trip out there then. Yeah.
Let's go. Well, we're in Southern Delaware still, and there's they're not playing any like indie-ish films at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you though. Like I can't honestly pick a favorite either. Midsummer has a special place in my heart because it was the first one I did see that kind of like inspired this like trend of me liking A24. But it's kind of like this. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but like it's unsettling in the ways of it's such a true, amazing horror movie with not a bit of like darkness or blackness or like subtlety of that. It's very bright, cheery cult film, but it's kind of like those. And I'm all about like fun facts about films. I love like learning facts. It's just like the fact that there's no hint of that, but it terrifies you to the core. It's gory, it's gross, but like it's like daisies and sunflowers, and like it's so beautiful. It's, I don't know, something about that like is just like fascinating to me. And also as well to kind of like cap what you said as well, 8th grade, literally incredible. Bo Burnham is incredible, and the fact that he balances being a comedian with like this side of like a serious tone to him, and being able to tell these amazing narratives is something incredible. And I don't know if you've seen Inside yet, but you really should if you haven't.
Okay, Inside has been on my watch list for some time. I just didn't necessarily think I was in the correct mental state to watch that.
Honestly, no one is. Even if you think you're in the correct mental state, you're not.
I think I feel like it's a journey.
There's this song in like halfway through. It's called Shit, and it's quite literally my theme song. It's amazing. He mixes comedy with like the reflection of like this past year so well. I don't want to like spoil it, but there's a couple songs where he reflects on, is it a good time to be a comedian right now? And during like this like terrible pandemic, because he for those who don't know, he filmed like this Netflix special during COVID, and it was completely filmed and created and mostly edited by himself and himself only. And it's kind of like a musical comedy as well. So all the songs are written and created by him as well and filmed by him. So it's like amazingly done visually, lyrically, and structurally, in my opinion. Highly recommend it if you want to laugh and a good cry, and a mix of both in between. Yeah. So because he also did 8th grade, I had to see it as well, and it was an amazing film. So
we've talked a lot about like, kind of like favorites and what got us, excited about filmmaking as, children or young adults. But Sarah, I'm really interested to like now, like you at 20 years old, when you're talking about like who inspires you and what inspires you, like talk to me about that.
Well, there's particularly two. I mean, as an aspiring like filmmaker, director, assistant director, a lot of directors have inspired me to some certain extent, but not as much as Christopher Nolan has. Christopher Nolan has had such a soul impact on my life. Almost every report, project I've had to do for film class. It's been about him. This man is like the top tier of my favorite directors. Yeah, so he's responsible for films like Interstellar, Inception, Dunkirk, and the Dark Knight trilogy. I don't care if I sound weird by saying The Dark Knight is possibly one of my favorite films of all time. For being a woman, I don't care. It's literally amazing. I don't even like care for Batman a whole lot, but like that film is incredibly stunning visually. Yeah, it's one of those movies that came out of like all the fun facts off of. Like each film in the series has a color scheme, and Dark Knight is like this bluish gray one. We're like Batman Begins is an orange color. Like it's
no, but we want Sarah. We want to hear.
Yes.
We want to know. We want to know. We want you. We want to know what makes you. We're not allowing you to just be like, oh, this is silly, but I'm into it. No. It's not silly. I would love to know. Like, I want to hear these fun facts and what makes you excited about like this trilogy.
Fair enough. Well, in particular, it is the second film of the trilogy. The third one is a little disappointing, but we're not going to talk about that one. It is the second one. It was a sad letdown, but for good reason. Like, because of we all know like Heath Ledger passed away, and he wasn't able to be in the third one. And the whole like plan was for him to be also a central figure. So it kind of like the story kind of like dived in a negative slope because of that. I think storylines had to obviously be changed, but it was a cool film. It was a good film. But The Dark Knight in particular, acting, performances, amazing. Older folks might come sue me, but it's fine. I think Christian Bale's the best Batman to ever be portrayed. But yeah.
Ooh, saucy.
Tea. Yeah, no, it's like one of those performances wise. Obviously, Heath Ledger won the Oscar that year for his performance as the Joker. It's quite incredible. The way it terrifies you, and it's haunting, and it's not a horror film, but it's definitely an edge of your seat thriller action film that doesn't show an ounce of blood the whole entire film, which is one thing that I found fascinating. There's no blood. I mean, there's some like gross stuff, but it's not necessarily blood. From what I read, that it was Christopher Nolan's goal to make it terrifying, but not gory, so that kids couldn't watch it. He did want his movies to be enjoyed by, general audiences. So your younger cool. child of like maybe 10 years old could still be able to watch it and be okay with it. Yeah, that's what I found out was pretty fascinating. I think cinematography is one of the best I've seen in a film, and it sounds crazy again, but it's just kind of like my cup of tea. I know it's not everyone's, but it's mine. Yeah, like cinematography, coloring. We talked about color scheme for a bit. Love the color scheme, performances, and then like all the fun facts that you find about along the way. Like there's this one particular scene where a building's supposed to blow up, and it doesn't. So Heath Ledger did a bit of improv with like the scene, and he was pretending that he was pressing the button aggressively, and the building finally actually does blow up. But they left that scene in the movie. So, and I'm sure I'm like, oh, there's like another fun fact. Like Heath Ledger is the first time he steps out into this crowd during like a party scene. Michael Caine, who plays Alfred in the film, he was supposed to say a line, but he was too terrified because it was the first time he had ever seen Heath Ledger in full costume. The Michael Caine forgot to say his line. So it's just like fun facts like that. Yeah, you're just like, oh, this is amazing. Like this is like, I love learning like little bits and details of it. But then of course like script and narrative story as a whole, amazing, quite incredible. So yeah, that's my reasoning on why it's one of my favorite movies in particular. But as a whole, I love Christopher Nolan's style of filmmaking. And how he puts himself in all scenes of production. He's usually responsible for writing the script with his brother. Of course, he's the director, and he kind of like, he's in every step of the way, editing wise and things like that. So I love how he's just like heavily involved for more difficult movies to understand, like Interstellar, Inception. I've seen those movies several times, and they're even hard for me to understand. These big mathematical, scientific, worldly themes about time and space. They're very complicated to understand, but I just have to appreciate like the amount of work and effort and thought that goes into these films, because they're incredible. Like they're incredible. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but they're quite amazing. So, and it's something I'll never fully understand. Like you'll never fully understand what goes on in Christopher Nolan's brain, but I'd love to, because the way he just creates these ideas, it's like what the world. Yeah. Oh, and also I thought about it real quick. Hans Zimmer is the composer for The Dark Knight and several of Christopher Nolan's films, and Hans Zimmer is also one of my favorite composers for film. So that's another reason why I like it. So yeah.
Man, that's all. Like I had a friend from college who he was actually a friend of a friend. It doesn't matter. The point is that he is a huge Christopher Nolan fan as well. He's a videographer down in North Carolina now. And he was the one that introduced me to kind of like the Christian, like this, and this would have been like circa 2012 maybe, Christopher Nolan film. In my mind, because I think this is like indicative of kind of how like dumb we can be. In my mind, I was like, oh, he just makes those like made for boys like action films, and it wasn't. And so like someone as passionate as introducing me to like his films, it was a really great context to be like, oh wow, to really see the art as opposed to just to be like, oh, write it off because it's like, oh well, I'm not into like Marvel or whatever, so I'm not gonna like, that doesn't, I'm saying like it's a great like, I guess, a crossover. And then of course like Dunkirk, and I guess it was 2018 or 2017, whatever that was like blew my, like circling back to the whole war movie kind of theme. I mean, icon.
Yeah. And I don't want to get too like political, whatever you want to call it, but I think it's very taboo, these days for like people to like be like, oh yeah, why would you like that? You're a girl, like screw you. I like it.
Yeah, like films don't have genders. About those films. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. I know The Dark Knight sounds like a very boy movie, but I don't know. I just appreciate filmmaking for what it is, and I think it's incredibly well done. So I have to applaud that.
Absolutely.
So, what are some of your inspirations?
So I think we kind of touched on it before when we talk about Warhorse, but I think Steven, I mean, and once again, this is not like, you always feel like, okay, actually, this might be a fun time to have this conversation. It's always like kind of, I don't know the word is stressful, but it's always kind of like, whenever you enter like let's talk about films or filmmakers or whatever with people who also like films, because it could turn into this whole, like, I don't know, like a little pretentious, a little ostentatious, like, oh, which is like very annoying and just very like, okay, like we can all just like, the thing, like there's films out there like Legally Blonde, I think is one of the best films from like from the 2000s, like, what I'm saying? So like, I think I say all that to say, to think about like filmmakers though, like, and so it's like Steven Spielberg, an obvious influence, an obvious like an inspiration in the sense of just like, I think for me, seeing the work he put out, like, back from the 80s, even today, it's like, as like Disney, for kids like in our demographic, like Disney was like the introduction from a young age, like, oh my gosh, like dream big and all that. I think that was Steven Spielberg when it comes to like a filmmaking, like the kind of work he put out, like, the way he pushed boundaries, and defined or redefined, or whatever you want to say, like a time and a place in the film industry has been a really big inspiration for me. I think more recently, Greta Gerwig, man, I could sing sonnets about her.
She's another one on my list.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm sure we have like a similar like opinion on her, just because going back to Lady Bird and just being like, oh my gosh, I feel like you see yourself and you see your own experiences kind of projected on the screen in a very like tangible and realistic way was and is very impactful for me. Like I think most recently, probably the most recent Greta Gerwig film I've seen, maybe the most recent one, Little Women. I was like, my mom, it was her birthday. This is like the last movie pre-COVID, last movie before everything shut down. And Mom was like, I really want to go like see Little Women. I was like, well, I'll take you for your birthday, thinking, Little Women. Like, it really didn't mean much to me. I don't remember. I read the book, I guess, when I was a kid. And I sat in the movie theater and I cried for 2 hours because I've never felt so heard and so seen. And so, like, her ability to just, I think that's her, that just speaks to her, not just as like a director, obviously as like a screenwriter. It just her ability to take, to translate the human experience onto screen to make an impact. Someone like me was just it's overwhelming.
Yeah. And it's not just another like remake, because the Little Woman has been done before, obviously. It's a classic, and it was done and interpreted in such a beautiful way, like following each of the characters, each of the girls at least, and their own struggles, personal struggles. And I think the one thing that sticks out to me in that film is Jo's particular quote, where she talks about women have souls and lives, and they're not just, I forget what she says exactly. They're not just like, pieces of space. And yeah, it's amazing. Like I remember sitting down and watching it for the first time as well, and I was actually at home. I actually didn't see it in a theater, but it was kind of like this mesmerizing film for me, where you sit through, you don't, move your eye off of the TV screen whatsoever. You just sit there and absorb everything that's happening. And I think it's a testament, again, to her writing ability. And I'm a little peeved that she didn't win an Oscar.
Hey, let's talk about it.
We're not going to talk about that. Oh my God, it's so aggravating. I mean, I think it was Quentin Tarantino won the screenwriting award for. I saw it too. What was it called? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, okay. That was the same year. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, I guess. Who knows?
It was a pretty decent. It was a solid year for film, but like even you watch it and then you watch Little Women, and like it doesn't compare. I'm a little peeved about that, but
yeah. Well, I think with like Little Women, it's like, as much as like you and I, maybe I'm speaking for you, so I apologize, but like for me, particularly, like I know I can speak from my experience, is that as much as like I saw myself in Jo, I was able to still like empathize with the other, like with Amy and with Laurie, and with like I think that's once again a testament to her screenwriting ability. Yeah. And obviously don't want to like underscore like the actors' performances as well, but the fact that you were able to relate to everyone's situation and understand where they were coming from, even if it wasn't you, that really struck me. Because once again, like I've seen other, I'm sure we both have other adaptations of Little Women, and none of them spoke to me like her interpretation of it.
Yeah. I agree with you. Like,
so yeah, so she's a big one on my list.
Yeah, exactly. Jo's one of my favorite character. Jo's one of the most relatable characters to me, but Amy's my favorite, and I love their dynamic between the two of them.
Ooh,
yeah, little tea. And it's honestly because
now that's interesting.
It's partially, and I hate to be like also like cliche, but I'm being 100% honest. Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh are one of like the biggest actresses in this moment, and they're also two of my most favorite actresses. Like I have so much respect for both of them and their work that they've done. Like I don't know, I have a girl crush on Florence Pugh right now. So.
Who doesn't? Incredible.
Yeah, honestly. And then I was looking, and then I was like, you do like the whole like Google Wiki search. She's 25. Get out of here. I was like blown away. I'm thinking she's like, late 20s, maybe your age, early 30s, in that range. I find out she's only like 5 years. I hate to like put you in the box. I'm sorry if that's no. I just found out that she was like only 5 years older than I was, and she's like playing these amazing characters. I was like, oh. It's insane. I think Saoirse's closer to your age as well.
Yeah.
So I think she's like 27, 28 or something.
I think that's true. I because I also, of course, have looked this up. Yeah, and I don't remember now, but I think she's between. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, like they're young women and they're doing amazing things. So good on them. Can't wait to see what they do next.
Absolutely. I feel like well, obviously, like Florence Pugh, she's all up in the Marvel universe now, right? Like, didn't she just come out with a big film with them?
Yes, she was in Black Widow as Black Widow's sister. So it's very good. It's a very good film, honestly. And she was like that. I hate to say it, but she was like that standout character. Like, you were more invested in Florence Pugh's character more so than you were invested in Black Widow. I hate to say it, but
oof.
I don't know. Florence Pugh really took over that film in a good way, you know?
Yeah, she's incredible. You know that she has a YouTube channel, and she used to sing covers of songs.
I didn't know about this. What?
Look
oh my goodness,
it's pretty cool.
Girl, this has become this podcast has become like a Florence Pugh stan account. You know, we just.
I'm not complaining about it though. Let's pivot hard. I'll open the Twitter account right now and join stan Twitter so fast. Don't even tempt me.
Yeah. Oh my god. Is there any more of your things that pertaining to you besides Greta Gerwig? Like, is there any more interests that you have?
I think a quick I feel like a quick Wes Anderson nod has to be said, just because once again I don't know if this is embarrassing. I'm gonna sit in it because we are all about realism here. My first introduction to Wes Anderson, I shit you not, was he did a holiday themed ad spot for I don't remember what the brand was, and I saw it on YouTube, and it was a really cool little short film, but it was branded content. It was a commercial essentially. And I was like, wow, this is really good. And then it was you Google it and you're like, oh shit. As if, of course it did anyway. So that's, and I wish I could remember now. The first thing that popped in my head was Abercrombie, but I don't think that's it. But anyway, he did it. It's on YouTube. It's a really cute little short film. Once again, it was an ad spot. But the point is that I think I think anybody who talks about Wes Anderson has to talk about symmetry and color and composition and balance and things like that. Oh, obviously, absolutely. all great things. And I think that's something coming from a more of a photography background than necessarily a videography background. I feel that's what really speaks to me, because you just feel that YouTube channel that's every frame of painting. Have you ever seen that? It's a film commentary technique kind of channel.
I don't think so. No.
It's pretty good. I'm pretty obsessed with it, but that's how I feel he embodies that concept of every frame of painting. You feel every single frame of his films are so intentionally and artfully constructed. I think there's a lot Spielberg mastered the one take. I think that there's a lot to learn from Wes Anderson, how he approaches the art of filmmaking, and I think that's something that can be difficult. I think it's okay. Where I lump Wes Anderson and Casey Neistat in the same category in my head is that it's one of those things where it's when you try to, be inspired by their style, you kind of sometimes might be tempted to just emulate as opposed to, be inspired by. And I think that because they both done in their own avenues have done such an incredible job of, leaning into their vision and knowing their, well, I was just say vision, but anyway. So Wes Anderson, though, once again, just, and also story too. I think what's cool about him is that when you look at the films he puts out, you obviously look at Grand Budapest Hotel or wow, I had the biggest brain fart because I just saw it on Amazon a minute ago. Anyway, I'm an idiot. I can't remember anything. But you look at even just his stories and how, and they're as much as I commend Greta Gerwig for her sense of realism, and you feel such an in accordance with her characters and her story, because you're oh my gosh, that's me. Mm-hmm. I think what I love about Wes Anderson is that he still communicates very basic universal human stories, but in a way that's more fantastical and pulls away from that realism, so you see it maybe in a different or refreshing light. So anyway, both have obviously I don't know, speak a lot to me in different ways. But But to kind of, I guess, transition, if it's a cool, I don't want to like jump the gun, but I'm actually, I think it'd be kind of cool. And now we've been talking a lot about like traditional like filmmakers or directors, but what I love about learning from you in the past few months is where you and I think have a strong like, you know, background is I love just talking about like digital content creators and how they've like inspired us as you know, being involved in the film industry. You want to go ahead? How about you jump in on that?
Yeah, there's a couple of ones that come to mind, and I think first off, if we're talking about like digital creators, I think our first platform obviously is YouTube, and within YouTube, you have your influencers. What's the word? You know, the people that, you know, create videos to support a product, to support like a theme, whether it be like fashion, food, whatever. And then you've got your digital creators, and I don't mean they all fall under the umbrella of digital creators, but these guys are making some like heavy, you know, filmmaking level things on YouTube, and it's quite incredible. Like the first one that comes to mind is, well, you mentioned in the past Casey Neistat. He's one of the main leaders of this like you know, digital creator kind of vibe, and a favorite of mine is Garrett Watts. He mixes comedy with like some really like he mixes comedy with like really heavy like digital like filmmaking things. Like for instance, I'll pull like a recent video he made. He was redecorating. He bought a new house. He's redecorating his room, and it's like he's turning it into his 90s dream room. Pretty simple YouTube video. It's like your basic, just like funny video. Like in the mix, he's like making amazing like inserts, time lapse. It's like things like Oscar worthy level. Like I'm not even like joking. It's like he's balancing like this element of like fun, you know, quick YouTube channel like vid with like, you know, just a taste of like his experience as a filmmaker. Like he's just kind of like, I know what he's doing. I see what he's doing. He's just like, hey, by the way, I'm like really good at making films, because he's got some like really like expert level stuff that he does when he films, and you know, of course, he like goes into like haunted buildings. Like recently, he went into like a haunted asylum or hospital, and it's like him and his a friend Aaron Sawicki, who's like the editor and kind of like his documentary.
Andrew.
What did I say?
Sarah.
What did I say?
I think you said Aaron.
Oh my God. No.
It could have been just like a Zoom thing.
No. I know better than this. I'm sorry. I was thinking Andrew in my head. I don't know what. It's kind of late, guys. No, I apologize if I said that wrong. Andrew Sawicki. At least I got his last name right. Yeah, no,
that's the
like,
harder part, so you got it.
He's like the documentary like vlog that's following Garrett around, is like Garrett's being crazy and showing people things, and he also like edits the videos from my understanding. But together like they make quite an impressive team, and it's like taking this idea of like, oh, your fun regular YouTube video you watch for fun, and they're creating like pieces of art, you know, almost like short documentary style videos, and they're putting it on YouTube.
Absolutely. I think it's what's like, there's like a lack of pretension about them both too, that just is just so inviting and like, you know, inclusive. But yeah, it's like funny because I'll sit there and I'll watch, you know, whatever, I don't know, that asylum video was like, maybe like, it was either like 30 minutes or like 50 minutes long. And I'll sit there and I will like be excited, like, yes, this long, like we got this long video today or whatever. But then it's like, you know, if your parents want you to watch like this, I don't know, hour long, like program on TV, it's like, oh my God, I can't be expected to sit here for an hour and watch this. So I think it just goes to speak to his talent and capability of, you know, creating like, particularly for the internet, like long form pieces of content that are not just, you know, good, but they're entertaining, and they keep. I'm a huge Garrett Watts and obviously Andrew Sawicki fan as well.
Yeah.
They're like, you know, okay, this might be from a couple of years ago, but like one of my comfort videos is the video where he's moving out of that like an apartment, and it's like 4 a.m, and it's just like chaos and mayhem as he's like his apartment. Anyway, that's such a like a diversion from the topic. But anyway, love.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally 100% agree. Like, yeah, and he'll do like the most mundane things, but like makes it interesting and shows off his like filmmaking skill, his videography talent, and editing talent too. Like it's like, you know, like you'll watch a video like, and his comments at the bottom of his YouTube video are honestly all of them are just like commending him. They're like, this is an amazing video. Like, your filmmaking is actually very good. And I don't know like his whole backstory. Like, I don't know if he has like filmmaking experience from college or if he just did it for fun. But like, whatever the case is, like this guy is very talented, and he definitely like sits in this box outside of like the rest of like your, you know, creators on YouTube. So yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. I think that we would be remiss if we did not discuss which used to be a guilty pleasure, but I've since matured and realized there's no such thing as guilty pleasures because we're not embarrassed by our interests. Team Star Kid. Ooh. Let's talk.
Well, let's talk about the fact that
obsessed.
We were both embarrassed about it, kind of, and then we both found out that we both had watched them, and then we're like, oh, well, we both have an interest.
Like, when I tell you that Star Kid got me through the year 2016, it is not a lie, because I am forever just amazed at their level, what they pull off with, like, sometimes, like, not, like, when we're talking about funding, very little, but just the talent and just, like, the concept. I have not, like, you know, I've seen every single one of their productions that they post on YouTube, and there's never been one that I'm like, oh, you know, I like others better. Like, they all hit the mark. So strong.
So they're a theater production based off, what was the college that they're based off of?
They're from you have to get this right or you're gonna get like slaughtered. I think it's University of Michigan Musical Theater. I don't think it's Michigan State. I think it's U of M.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. Like, I'm sweating about that. Yeah.
I know. I was like trying to think. It was trying to like, I couldn't think of anything. Like, yeah, I think it's Michigan. So. Yeah, no, so they're a musical theater company kind of group based from this college, and, well, my first introduction to them was a very Harry Potter musical, which took the concept of Harry Potter and, like, the storyline, and they kind of, like, packed the whole story into, like, one stage production with their own twists and comedic gags and things like that, and eventually, they posted it on YouTube, and eventually it got so popular that they made a second and third one based off of that. Some of the like gags that they come up with are like totally unrelated to Harry Potter, but that's why it's funny. Yeah, and it was during the phase I got into them, obviously, because connecting back to the beginning of the podcast, it was like this whole book to movie pipeline. Obviously, I had an obsession with Harry Potter. And I was like, I was watching everything I could get my hands on, and then of course this YouTube channel pops up. It was like Star Kid, and I see like Harry Potter in the title, and it was like a musical, and I was like, oh, I didn't know Harry Potter had a musical. Well, found out it's like obviously fan made by a college. It wasn't actually legit, but it's hilarious, it's funny, and it's a testament to both their acting and singing abilities. Darren Criss was the lead. He played Harry Potter. He's now since become an actor, and he was on Glee, I believe.
He's Darren Criss.
Yeah, Darren Criss, and he's been on several other projects as well. So yeah, a lot of talent has come from that college,
Glee,
and that particular
Versace
stage group.
Yeah. I think something like when it comes to just speaking about like the impact that like they've made on me, besides like just the fact that it's entertaining. Like, obviously it's entertaining, but I think what was so cool to see with like a group like Star Kid, like the definition of a group of people that just had a shared interest, and they created content around something that they all liked and they found funny or whatever, and the ability to build like an audience, a very passionate audience around like niche content, which I think is the blessing of when we're talking about like the internet and the opportunities it provides. And I think that was something that was really eye-opening to me, because at that point The people that were like big on YouTube they were more personalities, not necessarily like to some type of like, artistic piece. And so that was it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this is really good. But then when you realize that the fan base around like Team Star Kid, it's just like, wow, there's other people just as passionate about this and like in a very like real way. So I think that's when we're talking about like influence and opening your eyes or your mind to like what could be possible. I think that they definitely have played a lot in my head about that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. They're kind of like the lead creators that have, if we go back to the Harry Potter musical that they did, I mean, they've done several other original pieces as well, but if you take that one, they've taken something that's so out there, like Harry Potter's everywhere. It's like Harry Potter this, Harry Potter that. They've taken something so grand and they've like made it their own. They brought it down to a college level theater experience. It's literally, I don't know. Yeah, they're quite the leading examples for how you truly make things your own. Like some of the humor in the theater shows would not be acceptable in an actual Harry Potter film, but like it's amazing. It's for college students. Like it's.
Or in 2021.
Or in 2021, yeah. Oh my God. I remember watching them on YouTube, obviously, and this is, for me, it was in middle school, so this is like 2012, 2013. And it was way back when your Wi-Fi wasn't unlimited data. You had like 20 gigabytes per month, and you couldn't go over it. Or else they like slow your internet service down. Well, I was watching these, Star Kid series of the theater productions that they did, and each one was like 10 to 15 minutes, and I would watch each part, and it would be like 20 parts of the show, and I would get in trouble. They'd be like, "Why is the internet slowing down? Who used all the data for the month?" And I was like, "It's me." I don't know.
School projects,
yeah, school projects, exactly. Yeah, but sorry, Mom and Dad, but use your data to watch YouTube. So that was my experience.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool, and as they're kind of transitioning more into from favorites to like inspirations like today to things kind of like that motivate us as like filmmakers and being part of all of this. I think that's like it's the influence from, once again, I always revert back to like art and business when it's, I think what's so great about this time of like digital media, and it's very much like this new frontier. There's so many opportunities to share stories in new and like exciting ways, whether that's like more interactive or more immersive or more authentic or whatever it is. I think that's it's not so cut and dry. It's it's not like, hey, if you want to make a film, you have to raise money, and then you have to make it, and then you have to like cut it, and then pray to God that you'll find someone who will pay to distribute it, and it'll be put in a movie theater, and you hope that it gets whatever. That's not the path. Sure, it's still that, but there's so many more paths and more ways to get your story out there. And once again, I think it's always fun to see you push yourself as like an artist, and how can you tell a story in maybe a more fresh and exciting way.
Yeah, I totally agree. So after like talking about some of the inspirational films that have guided us through our years of life, and some of our earliest films that we can remember, what's something that motivates you for the future as a filmmaker based on your past experiences with film?
I think that, and this is like, it always feels silly to say, because it's not like, oh yes, I've learned this and now I remember this and I live my life this way. No, I feel like it's like very much you have to get like slapped in the face with this. Like I have to get slapped in the face with this a lot to like be reminded of this. But it just speaks to the testament of good films are good stories, and good stories are real stories. And it's about, it's a good reminder to like motivate you to continually try to, as scary as it can be more vulnerable, be more real, be more true. And that's really where you find, the thing that other people connect with. Because that's the thing. It's like, when I think about as an artist and like creating art, it's like I want to create something that somebody else can relate to or be challenged by, or, you know, it's not a static experience. And I think that's kind of what I try to, you know, I forget about it all the time. You have your moments, you know, no one is without their insecurities or whatever, but exactly. I think that's what's so cool to look back on these like filmmakers, or look back on these types of content or whatever. And that's to me what kind of pushes along when things get, you know, frustrating or discouraging.
Yeah.
How about you, Sarah? I feel like that was very exposed. Like, I don't very vulnerable. So now I'm gonna turn the tables to you and make you talk.
Okay. Yeah. No. I think looking back on all of my, you know, favorite films, favorite directors, things like that, they're all forms of self-expression, honestly, and I think that's why I best fit into like this film niche as a career, because I do better when I write my thoughts out or express it through visuals. I'm not so good on the speaking portion, because, you know, writing or doing something visually allows me to express everything I want to say and you know, think about it and think on it. So yeah, I think that's what motivates me to create films and things like that, is because that's how I express myself. Yeah, and plus it's fun. and
it's fucking fun.
yeah, it's fucking fun. There's something about like being able to share something with others. I'm all about storytelling, and I think, I don't know, film is one of the best ways to tell a story. And I mean, yeah, we can do it through a book, or we can do it through a song. I don't know, but there's something about it that really inspires me to do this as a career. Yeah.
I think it's because it's so like,
it's a good way to wrap it up.
No, but that's true. But I think you're hitting the nail on the head, and I'm actually really glad you settled us on this point. So I think this is it. Is that it's like, filmmaking is hard because there's a lot of things you kind of have to, I say, get right very loosely, but it's like, yeah, like you're reading a book, it's a visual medium. You listen to music, it's an audio medium, whereas film, it combines look, visual, and all that, and has to somehow find a balance that translates. So I mean, I never really thought about it like that simply before, but that's like 100% it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we did it. I think we finished off pretty strong. What do you think?
Somehow we managed. No, this is sick, Sarah. Like, I'm looking at the time and I'm like, oh no, like we've gone forever, but I don't know. It's a lot of fun, so
it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode, our second episode of Martini Shot.
To take a look at what we're working on, casting calls, newsletters, and more, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at nantico, and our website www.nanti.co. Also, check us out on YouTube and TikTok. And don't forget to catch us next week for the third episode of Martini Shot.
I'll see you next week, Jordyn.
See you next week.